3.9 billion. That is roughly how many password guesses per second a single graphics card can throw at a weak hash. And in 2012, that firepower turned one hashing shortcut at LinkedIn into 117 million leaked accounts. This is Cryptography Objective 1.4, Symmetric, Asymmetric, and Hashing, and here's the loop I want you holding the whole episode. The fix that would have saved LinkedIn was already standard practice, it cost almost nothing, and by the end you will know exactly what they skipped and why it sank them.
Hey everyone, Maya here, and that detail is what makes me angry on behalf of every user. LinkedIn did use cryptography. They hashed the passwords, so they were not sitting in plain text. They just used the wrong kind of hashing, the wrong way, and a stolen file became millions of working logins.
Today we go deep on Objective 1.4, the whole cryptography block. That covers both kinds of encryption, hashing, salting, and key stretching, digital signatures, the certificate world, and the hardware that holds the keys. And we run real commands so you see the difference instead of memorizing it.
Lewis here, before the terminal, one picture, because we already ran this experiment as a civilization. This is an Enigma machine, the cipher Germany trusted in the Second World War. It is symmetric, one shared secret setting for both sides. It was not the math that failed them. It was how they handled that shared key. Bletchley Park broke it because the same secret had to be distributed to every operator every day, and a shared secret handled by thousands of people leaks. Hold that thought, because it is the exact weakness the modern exam tests 80 years later.
I want to name why this objective specifically wrecks people. It is not that the math is hard. It is that the words sound interchangeable. Encrypt and hash, and encode and sign all sound like fancy ways to say scramble, and CompTIA writes questions that punish you for thinking they are the same.
This is Liam, and my read is that precision is the whole game here, so let me pin the first word down. Encryption is reversible. You scramble data with a key, and with the right key you unscramble it back to the original. That reversibility is the entire point, because you encrypt fully intending to read the data again later.
And hashing is one way. You cannot unhash it, and it exists purely to prove data has not changed, to prove integrity. So if a question asks you to get the original data back, hashing is automatically wrong. One arrow, no return trip.
And then there is the imposter in the group, encoding. Base 64 looks scrambled, so beginners think it is encryption, but it is not. Encoding reverses with no key at all and provides exactly zero confidentiality, and we prove that in a terminal in a few minutes.
So here is a clean test you can run on any exam question, and it is the thing I wish someone had handed me first. Do I ever need the original data back because yes means encryption? Do I only need to prove the data has not changed because that is hashing? Am I just reshaping data so a system can transport it because that is encoding and it is never the security answer?
And watch the verbs CompTIA uses, because they bait you with them. Protect this data or make this unreadable points at encryption. Verify this file was not tampered with points at hashing. The verb tells you the tool every time.
Before we go further, our viewers send us one question on this topic more than any other, and I want Liam to put it on the table. Liam, what is the thing people keep asking?
Yes, and it comes up under every cryptography video. People ask, if encryption and hashing both scramble my data, when do I use which one, and how do I tell them apart on the exam? That is the framing question, and it organizes everything that follows.
Perfect setup, so here is the path. We start with symmetric, the one-key workhorse, then asymmetric, the clever key pair that secures the internet. After that comes hashing for integrity, the LinkedIn password fight, signatures and certificates, and finally the hardware that guards the keys. By the end, you will tell these apart in a heartbeat. Symmetric encryption is the simplest of the three, and once you see it run, the rest clicks into place. So let us start here and open a real terminal before the scene is out.
The defining trait is sitting right there in the name. Symmetric means one single key does both jobs. The same secret key that encrypts the data is the same key that decrypts it. One key both directions, no second key anywhere in the picture. One shared secret key for everything. Lock it with that key, Unlock it with that same key. My read is that this is the cleanest mental model in the whole objective, and the exam leans on it constantly.
Think of the deadbolt on your front door. The same key locks it when you leave and unlocks it when you come home. Everyone in the family who needs in has to carry a copy of that one key. And that copy is the whole vulnerability, because the more people hold the key, the more ways it leaks. That is Enigma in your pocket.
The algorithm the exam cares about most is AES, the Advanced Encryption Standard. It comes in 3 key lengths: 128-bit, 192-bit, and 256-bit. The number is the size of the key, and a longer key means a far larger search space for an attacker. Let me actually run it, because seeing AES work makes it stick. Watch the terminal. I have a plaintext file with a secret message inside, and I am going to lock it with 256-bit AES.
And now the file is scrambled. Open that encrypted file and you get pure binary noise. No key, no message. Watch me bring it straight back with the same key, because that is symmetric in one breath. Same key scrambled it, same key brought it back. That is the entire idea, and it is why symmetric is the workhorse. Fast, efficient, for bulk data like an encrypted hard drive or a database at rest.
And the reason longer keys matter is worth one precise sentence. Each extra bit doubles the number of possible keys an attacker must search. So 256-bit AES is not twice as strong as 128-bit, it is astronomically stronger, far past anything brute force reaches. For the exam, all 3 sizes are secure today, with the longest reserved for the most sensitive, long-lived data.
One distinction shows up in questions: block versus stream. A block cipher like AES encrypts data in fixed-size chunks, those 128-bit blocks, while a stream cipher like CISSP encrypts data 1 bit or byte at a time, which suits live audio or a continuous connection. Same symmetric idea, different shape of input.
But here is the catch the exam loves, and it is the human problem. If you and I both need that one key, how do I get it to you safely in the first place? I cannot email it, because anyone reading my email now owns the key to everything. That is the key distribution problem, and it is symmetric encryption's biggest weakness.
2 more names to lock in: 3DES, written as the digit 3 then DES, and plain DES before it, are the old legacy block ciphers, and NIST disallowed 3DES for new use after 2023. So in a modern exam, they are the wrong choice. The modern stream cipher you should recognize on site is CISSP, common in mobile and in TLS.
Lewis, you have watched this distribution problem bite the real world for decades. Frame the question the skeptic in the audience is asking right now.
Gladly, and it is the right one. If symmetric encryption is this fast and this secure, why do we even need a second kind of encryption at all? Why not use AES for everything and call it done?
That is exactly the right question, and it has a clean answer. Symmetric is brilliant at speed and useless at first contact, because 2 strangers cannot use it until they already share a secret, and sharing that secret over the open internet is the whole problem. Stick with me, because asymmetric encryption is the genuinely clever way the internet solved it. Let me pause for just a second, because this genuinely helps. If you are getting value here, hit that like button, then subscribe and ring the bell. It costs you nothing, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps these videos coming.
Symmetric left us with a problem that looked impossible for decades, the same one that beat Enigma. How do 2 strangers agree on a secret key over a wide-open internet where everyone is listening? Asymmetric encryption is the answer, and it is one of the genuinely clever ideas in all of computing.
The structural difference is the key count. Symmetric had 1 key. Asymmetric uses a pair of mathematically linked keys, a public key and a private key, generated together and bound together forever. A key pair is the whole idea. You hand the public key to anyone, and you guard the private key and never share it. They are linked, but my read of the math is the part that matters. You cannot derive the private key from the public one.
And the rule that makes it work is this. Whatever the public key locks, only the matching private key can open. So anyone can encrypt a message to you using your public key, but only you, holding the private key, can read it.
Picture a mailbox with a slot. Anyone walking by can drop a letter in through the public slot, but only the person with the private key to the mailbox door can open it and take the letters out. The slot is public, the door key is private. That is the whole mechanism for a family on the street.
Let me generate a real pair so you see there is nothing magic about it. This is the math the whole internet runs on, 2 short commands.
Now the public key is safe to publish anywhere. Watch me encrypt with the public key and decrypt with the private one. This is the solution to key distribution, running live, and we already proved Symmetric could not do this.
The 2 algorithm names to know are RSA, with key sizes of 2048 or 4096 bits, and ECC, elliptic curve cryptography. The fact the exam wants is that ECC gives equal security with a much smaller key. A 256-bit ECC key is roughly as strong as a 3072-bit RSA key, which is why phones and small devices love it.
Here is the practical twist that surprises people. Asymmetric is slow, really slow next to AES. So in the real world, we almost never encrypt the whole conversation with it, because nobody would sit through a video that crawled.
Exactly. We use the slow asymmetric pair just once, to safely hand over a fast symmetric key. Then both sides switch to that quick symmetric key for the actual data. That handoff is called key exchange, and the names are Diffie-Hellman and its elliptic curve version, ECDH. They let 2 parties agree on a shared secret over a line everyone can see, without ever sending the secret itself. Here is the relationship laid out side by side so you never confuse these 2 again, because this is the single most tested distinction in Objective 1.4.
So both are on the board plainly. Symmetric is one fast key with a sharing problem, while asymmetric is a slow key pair that solves the sharing problem. And the verdict at the bottom is the whole game. You combine them, which is exactly what happens every time you load a secure website.
Let me show that combination working, because it happens millions of times a second and you have never noticed. Every time you see the little padlock, your browser and the server use asymmetric keys and a key exchange algorithm to agree on a fresh random symmetric key no eavesdropper can derive. Then both sides throw the slow math away and encrypt the entire rest of the conversation with that fast key.
I love that framing. The slow, careful key pair is the formal handshake when 2 strangers first meet, and once they trust each other, they switch to talking quickly and easily. That is why your video streams smoothly instead of stuttering, because the expensive part only happens once, at the very start.
And if a question ever asks why we bother with both kinds instead of one, that is your answer, because neither is enough alone. Symmetric is fast, but cannot safely meet a stranger. Asymmetric can meet a stranger but is too slow for bulk data. Together they are the system the entire secure internet is built on.
Maya, you flagged a great viewer question on this exact topic earlier. Read it out for everyone because a lot of people are wondering the same thing.
Yes, and it is a good one. They asked, is RSA actually being replaced by ECC, and which one should I learn for the exam? Honest answer, learn both names and what each is for, because the exam tests RSA and ECC side by side, and ECC is simply the lighter, modern choice for small devices. Now the tool everyone confuses with encryption, even though it does the opposite job, hashing. And this is where the LinkedIn story finally starts to bite.
Let me define it precisely first. A hash function takes any input of any size and produces a fixed length output called a digest. A same input always produces the same digest, and you cannot run it backward to recover the input. It is a one-way fingerprint, one way by design. There is no key and no decrypt step. Its entire purpose is integrity, proving that a file or a message has not been altered, not hiding it.
And the property that makes it powerful has a great name, the avalanche effect. Change one single character of the input, even a comma, and the entire output hash changes completely. Let me show you, because this is one of those things you have to watch to believe. Same sentence, twice. The second time I add one period at the end. One character. Watch what happens to the two hashes.
Look at that. One period, and the two hashes share nothing in common. That is the avalanche effect, and it is why hashing catches tampering. If a single bit of a file changes, the hash will not match, and you know it was altered in transit.
This is also how a download page protects you. You hash the file you downloaded, compare it to the number on the site, and if they match, your copy is intact and nobody slipped malware in. That is integrity in everyday life, and it is the kind of thing families never see but always rely on.
Let me add the 3 properties the exam expects by name. First, deterministic. The same input always yields the same digest, which is what lets you compare. Second, fixed length. A 2-word note and an entire movie produce the same size hash, 256 bits for SHA-256. Third, collision resistance. It should be infeasible to find 2 different inputs with the same hash.
And that third property is exactly what Message Digest 5 and SHA-1 lost, and we already lived through the consequences. Researchers can now manufacture collisions, 2 different files that hash to the same value. In 2017, Google built 2 different PDF files with an identical SHA-1 digest. The demonstration they named Shattered. The moment collision resistance breaks, the hash is worthless for security.
So the algorithm rule for the exam is short. SHA-256, part of the SHA-2 family, is the current safe default and gives a 256-bit digest, and SHA-3, the newer Kakeki-based family, is the approved next-generation option. Message Digest 5 and SHA-1 are broken, so never choose them for security on the exam.
One more term the exam pairs with hashing, and it fixes a real gap. A plain hash proves a file was not changed, but it cannot prove who sent it, because anyone can compute a hash. HMAC, the keyed hash message authentication code, mixes a shared secret key into the hash. Now a matching digest proves both that the data is intact and that it came from someone who holds the key. Integrity plus authenticity.
Now let me kill the most common beginner myth on camera. Base64 encoding looks like a hash to a newcomer, but it is not, because encoding has no key and is trivially reversible by anyone. Watch me reverse it in one command with 0 secrets. No key, no password, and the secret came right back. So if an exam question describes Base64 and asks whether it provides confidentiality, the answer is no, every time. Because encoding is for transport and compatibility, never for security. People use it to move binary data safely through text-only systems, like an email attachment or a token in a web request.
So lock in the 3-way split with a myth on the board, because this exact confusion is what CompTIA sells you.
And hashing is exactly how good systems store your password. They never keep the password itself, they keep its hash. And at login, they hash what you typed and compare. So a database thief gets hashes, not passwords, at least when it is done right. The trouble is the phrase "done right" hides the whole LinkedIn disaster.
Which sets up the most expensive mistake in this topic, because storing a bare fast hash is not enough. Let me show you the right way and the wrong way side by side, then in the next scene we settle exactly why it matters in a real argument. Keep the terminal up.
Watch this closely. On the left, a password run through plain Message Digest 5, essentially the way LinkedIn did it. On the right, the same password through bcrypt, a slow function that bakes in a random salt and a cost factor. They are not in the same universe.
Look at the cost. That bare Message Digest 5 hash cracks at billions of guesses per second on a single graphics card, while the bcrypt one, with its cost factor of 12, crawls at a few hundred per second. That gap is the difference between a breach taking 3 days and taking 300 years. We are going to argue out exactly why next.
Let us close the loop on LinkedIn, because this is where everything turns into a real lesson. They stored passwords as unsalted SHA-1, and we just walked through the bcrypt fix. Here is the fork worth arguing. If you could change only one thing, would you add a salt, or would you make the hash slow? Lewis and Maya land on different sides, and I will call it at the end.
Slowness is the thing that actually saves you, and I have watched this play out for years. Salt is nice, but a salted hash that is still fast is a salted hash I crack overnight on one graphics card. Billions of guesses per second do not care that each one had a pinch of salt. Make the function slow and my whole attack collapses.
Salt is the part you can never skip because it stops the worst attack entirely, and it is the families who pay when you skip it. Without salt, every person who picked the same password gets the same hash, so an attacker cracks one and instantly owns thousands of accounts. That is precisely how the bulk of 117 million LinkedIn passwords fell so fast.
Fair, but salt without slowness still loses.
Let me finish the human side first, because that is who is watching. A salt is just a unique random value added to each password before hashing. It does not have to be secret. Its only job is to make every stored hash different, even when two people picked the exact same weak password.
Let me steer this because you are both circling the real answer. Lewis, grant Maya her point. What does salt do that slowness alone cannot?
Honestly, it kills the pre-computed shortcut. Rainbow tables are giant pre-built lists of common password hashes, and a unique salt per user makes that pre-built list worthless. So salt defeats the shortcut, and slowness defeats the brute force, and I will concede they are not rivals.
Which is the point I have been driving at, and it matters because real people reuse passwords. You do not pick one. You do both, and they cover each other's weakness. Salt makes the table useless, and a slow function makes each remaining guess expensive.
Maya, then name the slow part for the exam so the viewer has the words.
The slow functions are called key stretching, and the three names to know are bcrypt, pbkdf2, and argon2. They deliberately run the hash thousands or even millions of times with a tunable cost factor. So a single guess takes a real fraction of a second instead of a nanosecond.
And that cost factor is the dial. We set it to 12 in the demo. Raise it as computers get faster, and the same stored password gets harder to crack every year, with no code rewrite. That is the elegant part an attacker genuinely hates.
So here is the verdict, and it settles the debate. You were both right, because the answer is not either or, it is both together. Always salt every password and always run it through a deliberately slow key stretching function like bcrypt or argon2, which is exactly what NIST Special Publication 863b recommends. Salt kills the shortcut and slowness kills the brute force, and had LinkedIn done both in 2012, the breach would have been a footnote. A key pair does one more trick, and it surprises people because it runs the keys backward. Normally, the public key encrypts and the private key decrypts. But if you encrypt with your private key instead, anyone can verify it with your public key, and that proves it came from you. That reverse direction is a digital signature.
The everyday version is a wax seal on a letter. Only you have the stamp, so when people see the seal, they trust the letter is really from you and was not opened on the way. A digital signature is that seal done with math, and it is what tells your phone a software update is genuine and not malware.
The flow has two halves, signing and verifying, and the keys swap roles between them, which is exactly where the exam loves to scramble the order. My read is that if you can follow this path cleanly, you can answer any signature question they throw at you. Watch the path. To sign, you hash the document first, then encrypt only that small hash with your private key, and that encrypted hash is the signature you attach. To verify, the reader decrypts the signature with your public key to recover the hash, then independently hashes the document themselves and compares the two. And if those two hashes match, two things are proven at once. The document was not altered because the hashes would differ, and it genuinely came from you because only your private key could have produced that signature. Integrity and origin in a single check.
And that origin property has a name the exam uses, non-repudiation. It means the signer cannot later deny they sent it because only their private key could have produced that signature. Keep the two jobs separate in your head. Confidentiality hides the message, while a signature proves who sent it and that it was not altered. Let me sign and verify a real file so the flow is not just a drawing. Same key pair we generated earlier.
Verified OK. And here is the part that has bitten the real world. Flip a single byte of that file and the same command prints verification failure because the hash inside the signature no longer matches. So a signature proves who sent it and that it was unchanged, which is exactly why we sign software, firmware, and certificates.
But there is a gap a sharp viewer should be feeling right now, and it is the one that protects your family's bank login. How do I know a public key really belongs to my bank and not to an attacker who handed me their own public key and a convincing logo?
That is exactly the gap, and PKI, public key infrastructure, is the whole reason it exists. A trusted third party called a certificate authority checks who you are and then signs a certificate that binds your identity to your public key. Your browser already trusts a small set of root authorities, so it trusts anything they vouched for. That is the root of trust.
And we will not pretend the model is flawless, because that is honest, and because the exam tests the failure too. A certificate can expire, and when it does, the trust silently stops working. Equifax learned that the hard way, when an expired certificate blinded a security tool for 19 months while a breach ran underneath it. We give certificates, revocation, and the trust chain their own full episode next.
So zoom out on this scene. The same key pair gives you two superpowers. Encrypt with the public key for privacy and sign with the private key for proof of origin, with PKI deciding whose public key to trust. That single mechanism is the backbone of secure email, software updates, and the padlock on every site you log into. Liam, you have been sitting on a clarifier that the whole room mixes up. Go ahead and put it to us.
Yes, and here it is. If a digital signature uses my private key, does that mean the message is also encrypted and secret? Because on a quick read, those feel like the same operation.
Clean answer, no. Signing proves who sent it and that it was not changed, but the message itself can still be sitting in plain view. Secrecy and signing are two separate jobs, and you can do either one without the other. That is the trap, treating one stamp as if it did both.
One block of Objective 1.4 is left, and it is the practical one, where you encrypt, and where the keys actually live. You do not just flip on encryption, you choose a level, and the exam tests whether you picked the right one for the threat. Start at the bottom and work up, because the levels stack. Full disk encryption locks the entire drive, so a laptop stolen from a car is a brick to the thief. Partition and volume encryption do the same for a section of storage. File and folder encryption protect specific items even on a running machine. Then the exam loves to contrast. Database encryption protects the whole store, while record level, sometimes called field or column encryption, protects one sensitive field, like a single column of card numbers, while the rest of the row stays readable for ordinary work. Choosing the level is choosing exactly what you are defending against.
And here is the trap that ruins all of it. The one I have seen hurt real people. Your encryption is only as safe as the key, and the right place for that key is hardware. If you encrypt a database beautifully and then leave the key sitting in plain text in the application code, you have locked the door and taped the key to it. So where is the key supposed to live?
That question is so central we called in someone who works with keys for a living. A viewer asked where keys are supposed to live in the real world, so let us put it to an expert. Naomi, can you hear us?
I can hear you, and that key in the code mistake is still the most common one I find. The whole point is to keep the key in dedicated tamper-resistant hardware that performs the crypto for you, so the raw key never sits in normal memory or a config file where an attacker can grab it.
And so the words are not abstract. This is the piece of hardware Naomi is talking about. That little chip soldered to the board is a trusted platform module, and it is holding the key for full disk encryption on the laptop you are watching this on right now.
So name the family for the exam, Naomi, because the acronyms blur together. What is the difference between a TPM, an HSM, and a secure enclave?
A TPM, a trusted platform module, is that small chip on a single computer's motherboard, the thing you just showed holding the key for full disk encryption on your laptop. An HSM, a hardware security module, is a dedicated high-volume appliance for an entire data center.
So the one laptop chip is the TPM, and the data center appliance is the HSM. That is the line I always mix up, and now it sticks.
Exactly. A secure enclave is that same idea baked inside a phone or server processor, and a cloud KMS, a key management service, is a managed key vault you rent instead of buying the box.
But an HSM is not cheap for a small shop.
Right, an HSM is expensive and adds overhead, so a small shop often leans on a cloud KMS instead, trading some direct control for a lot less burden and a much lower bill. The one wrong move is the middle, pretending a key in plain code is good enough. Thanks for having me on.
That is a genuinely useful, honest answer, and it lines up with where we were heading. Thank you, Naomi. We will let you go.
There is one more family on this objective that is not encryption at all, and people lump it in by mistake. Obfuscation hides or disguises data without the strong reversible math of real encryption, and the exam tests 3 flavors.
Walk the 3. Steganography hides a message inside something else, like data tucked invisibly into an image. Tokenization replaces sensitive data with a meaningless stand-in token, so a card number becomes a random token and the real value lives in a separate vault. Data masking shows only part of the value, like a receipt printing only the last 4 digits.
And the exam trap is treating those as encryption. Masking and tokenization reduce exposure, and steganography hides the existence of a message, but none of them is the strong, key-based confidentiality that AES gives you. If a question needs real protection of the data itself, the answer is encryption.
And one last term you will see, blockchain, an open public ledger. It chains records together with hashes, so each block carries the hash of the one before it. Change an old record and every later hash breaks, which is integrity at scale. Notice it leans on hashing, not on hiding, so it is about trust and tamper evidence, not confidentiality.
So the honest verdict on this whole objective, after watching it go wrong for years: do not reach for the exotic option. Encrypt at the level that matches the threat, keep the key in real hardware or a managed service, and never confuse obfuscation with encryption. The fanciest answer is almost never the right one, and the right one is the boring, correct level with the key kept somewhere an attacker cannot read it.
If you carry one rule out of this whole episode, make it this. Encryption hides it, hashing proves it, a signature shows who sent it, and the key is only as safe as where you keep it. Get those 4 ideas straight and objective 1.4 stops being the thing that fails you. The whole episode in one breath. Encryption is reversible and protects confidentiality, symmetric for speed and asymmetric to safely exchange that key. Hashing is one way and protects integrity. A signature proves origin. And passwords always get a salt plus a slow key stretching function.
Here is what you can do tonight, and it is for you, not the exam. Go reset the password that protects your email so it is long and used nowhere else, because that one habit is exactly what the LinkedIn victims wish they had. You just learned why it matters, so use it.
And the exam shortcut I would give my younger self: anchor on the goal verb. Confidentiality means encryption, integrity means hashing, proof of origin means a digital signature, and sharing a key safely means asymmetric or Diffie-Hellman.
Next episode, wait until you see the one expired certificate that blinded Equifax for 19 months. We follow this exact thread into PKI certificates, the trust chain, and revocation. My read is it is the most practical scene in the whole domain.
If this made symmetric, asymmetric, hashing, and signatures finally click, hit like and subscribe so the next objective lands in your feed, and grab the free practice quiz on certs.professorerica.com to drill it before exam day. And here is the one for the comments. If you walked into the exam tomorrow, which of these would still trip you up? Encryption, hashing, or encoding? And what finally made it click for you today? Tell us below. Until next time, stay curious and stay sharp. Professor Erica, signing off.